Hi, I wanted to talk about what it's like coming out of an abusive relationship, what's going on. All a bunch of chemicals, so we react to certain things in certain ways. And we're all different, so we've experienced something that is very similar, but we react in a different way. So I wrote a blog called A Shell of My Former Self, describing the pain and the emptiness and trying to understand what it was that had gone on in that relationship. It was when I found myself, or finding myself in a place of confusion. And when I looked in the mirror, I did not recognise the person staring back. In fact, there was nobody staring back. I could see an image in front of me, but it was completely dead behind the eyes. I was wondering what was going on, what happened, why me? What did I do wrong? I questioned all the time, if only I had said, or if only I hadn't said something, if only I'd done something, if only I hadn't done something. And this was the confusion that was going on, and this is the gaslighting, the cognitive dissonance. I remember seeing a video about 18 months ago from Melanie Tonya Evans saying that she had seen some research done that the brain actually physically turns itself off to protect itself, because cognitive dissonance, the gaslighting that goes on, is very, very dangerous. It's changing your perception of your world. It's changing your perception of reality. It's done as a protective mechanism. So the gaslighting is done as a protective mechanism for the abuser. So you might have picked up something, you might be feeling in a certain way, and they're distorting your reality. I'm completely lonely, completely on my own. And that was partly my fault, because during this relationship, when I started to realise that some of this behaviour wasn't right, I distanced myself from people because I wasn't looking after myself. I was more invested in protecting the relationship, and this is what happens. So there's the cycle of abuse, which is the idealization, devaluation, and discard. And during that process, they test you and keep checking in and throwing a bit more love bombing in until they've hooked you. They're breaking down your barriers. But they're checking in with you to see when you flip from protecting yourself to being more interested in protecting the relationship. So during that process, when I knew things weren't right, I distanced myself from people that were going to tell me. And they also do this as well. The abuser might be fearful that that somebody's going to tell you who they really are, because this was a game. At the very beginning of the relationship, you told them what you were looking for. You told them the type of person you were looking for. You told them everything about you. You know, your likes, your dislikes. You know, they knew your high morals or whatever it was that you told them. You handed that information over so very readily, and they went and created a character, Oscar-worthy, and played a game of manipulation and manufactured this person. They manufactured the relationship. They became a manufactured soulmate. They manufactured the future that you were going to live together. And none of it was true, because as soon as they drained you of your energy, of everything, your health, your money, they just stripped you down. You were no good to them anymore. So they had to go and find someone who was going to give them the attention that they felt that they do need. Because there's nothing inside them. They're hollow, and they've got this gaping hole. And so they've left this gaping hole in you, thinking this is all your fault, because they've told you it's all your fault. And you're just left in a confusion. And I lost count of the people that I've worked with that have felt exactly the same. The confusion of believing this was all their fault. And some of these weren't romantic. Some of these were in the workplace as well. Believing this was all their fault. Completely, self-esteem was completely rock bottom. And not really understanding how to move on and how to get over it, because there's no closure. you're left wondering, and you're left not understanding what it is that's going on. Like the slot machine, I did a video on that a week or so ago, a couple of weeks ago, like the slot machine. You've invested so much in this relationship, you're waiting, you're hanging on, you don't want to leave just in case you get that payout, and you're investing more and more and more, and you're getting more hooked in and more hooked in and more hooked in. And they just walk away. They just walk away one day without a backward glance, and you have no idea what's happened. And I did another video called The Dementor's Kiss, I think that was last week, and that was about, I'm a great Harry Potter fan, so that's about these cloaks that are floating, these deep, dark demons that are floating around in the sky. And Harry's uncle or godfather is laying by the lake, and they are swarming around, waiting to suck the life out of him. And out of his mouth, as they start that, is a pearl comes out. And I felt that was like the soul, and I felt that was exactly how it felt coming out of this relationship. I felt gradually the whole of my life being sucked out of me. There was no life force left in me. And this is where the confusion and the emptiness and the loneliness comes into it, because you've invested so much in this relationship, and you hung on for so long waiting for that fake future to happen, for that person to come back to who they were when you first met them. And towards the end of the relationship, as you're running out of energy and money and everything else, they start to get sloppy and lazy, and they don't cover their tracks as well, because they can't be bothered, because you aren't anything to them now. You haven't got anything to offer them, so they do become lazy. And that's how you catch them out in certain areas. But it's still devastating. You literally are a shell. There is nothing left of you. But at some point you do find yourself again. The closure you're not going to get for various different reasons, because this is power and control. The first thing you need to do is try and stop contact if you can. If you've got children, I know it's really, really difficult. I've been in that situation. See if you can find someone that can be with you, or you can take your children to a safe space and they pick them up from that safe space. As much as you can stay away from them, because if you're in pain, they will get a lot of pleasure out of that. Seeing you, it's fueling them again, and it's giving them reason to maybe contact you, because they want to hear how much pain that you're in, because it's still validating them, and this is their problem. They can't validate themselves. They're very lonely people. They can't be left alone. They need to be surrounded by people. So they've got a huge wound, and so have you. And it's probably an abandonment wound that it comes from childhood. And if you can find out what that is and get that wound out and deal with it, or heal it, or understand it, or talk to the child that was at that age, you really, really are going to move on so quickly. Now, I describe this as like a verruca, and with a verruca, which is a virus, it buries itself within the layers of skin, and you have a treatment. If a tiny part of that root gets left, it waits dormant until it gets triggered again. And this wound is the same. If you leave this wound, there's a chance you're going to experience this again. And this, to me, is the gift. This is a beautiful gift, and I know how painful it is. I know you're not feeling like it is at the moment. But if you can heal the wounds and heal the trauma, you'll be able to walk away. You'll be able to pick up the pieces. The Japanese have got a craft called Kintsugi, I think that's how you say it. If they break a piece of pottery, they put it back together, and they use gold to glue it back together again, to put it back together. And they turn it into a different form of art. So whether that's a vase or a teacup or a saucer, but they create something with gold. Gold's my favourite colour, and I do a lot of energy work. As an intuitive, I do a lot of work with gold energy. And it reminds me of when I was writing my book. I came across this this quote from Glennon. I don't know whether it's Glennon Doyle or Glennon Melton, because I know she's dropped one of them. And she was saying that she shattered into pieces, and slowly she started to put herself back together again. And she woke up one day and realised that she put herself back completely differently. And it just fitted, well, it fitted perfectly with the book, because I talked about picking up the pieces. It just fitted so perfectly, but it still fits perfectly with this. And at that point of writing the book, I had no idea about emotional abuse to the point that I do now. I had a limited knowledge of what was going on. And it was just, that was like the stepping stone. So this is a gift, turning grit into gold. This is your chance, and I know it's painful. I know you literally possibly can't pick yourself up off the floor. Or if you've gone through that, there's still bits that you're missing. Perhaps you haven't got the closure, or you're waiting for the closure. You're never going to get closure, because they are in control of that. And the more they're in control, and that would be like handing over power, handing you back the power if they told you what was going on, if they told you exactly what had happened. This is your time. Just believe me that it was fake. It was a fake future, a fake relationship. They possibly loved the thought of being in love with you. They possibly loved the thought of being with you. They loved the energy that you gave them. That was one of the questions, was, oh my God, did he really love me? And I had to come to the conclusion that no, he didn't. He possibly liked the thought of being with me. He possibly liked the thought of the attention that I gave him, and so many other things on so many different levels. And these are hard things, you know, when you've been wrapped up in a relationship for a period of time and being shown that these are lies. But I promise you, one day you'll wake up and you will look back in the mirror. You will see someone staring back, and there will be energy, there'll be a soul, there'll be something behind the eyes. This is time to use the gold to glue yourself back together again. You've put yourself back together completely differently. Take baths and walks and be really gentle with yourself. Treat yourself like you would a child. When you get cranky, when you're moaning, maybe put yourself in the bath and put yourself to bed. Have a nap if you need it. This is your time, and this is where you are going to feel really lonely, because your whole world was wrapped around looking after them, caring for them, making sure their needs were met, and you completely forgot who you were. So I'm now going to send you loads of love. And just surround yourself in gold, that golden energy. Have a good day.